I make sure, as I've gotten older, like there's got to be a why for everything you do, and they have to understand it. This is an extremely inquisitive group. Information is at their fingertips. So like, I need to provide, I need to provide a reason, and that's okay. And in the past, like when I was younger, I'd be like, dude, why are you questioning me? What the, like, what are you talking about here? I don't need to be questioned for. There doesn't need to be a why. Just do what I tell you. But that's not how this generation thinks, and it's important that they understand the why. That's okay.
What separates championship teams from talented ones? According to Notre Dame lacrosse assistant coach Ryan Wellner, it's not the X's and O's, it's the connectivity and peer leadership. Welcome to the Captains and Coaches podcast, where we explore the art and science of leadership through the lens of athletics and beyond. I'm your host, Tex McQuilkin, and today I'm joined by Coach Wellner, who takes us inside the Fighting Irish program, sharing how his playing days shaped his coaching philosophy, the lessons he learned from legendary coaches, and why Notre Dame's commitment to culture, community, and character creates championship caliber athletes. From the weight room to game day, we explore what it takes to build peer-led teams, navigate the modern athlete's need for autonomy, and why standards should never flatline. They should be impossible to catch. With that, let's pass it off to Coach Wellner to help us raise the game. Ready, and break. Are you guys locked in? How you feeling getting ready for the season?
We're locked in, and we had a great weekend. Both on the field and off the field. The experiences that we were able to have as a team, teach our younger guys how to travel, and we went for a hike after, and we were able to do a watch party to watch our football team. It was awesome. It was a great weekend, and now I'm excited to really dive into the weeds and work on development and see where we come out in January when we start this thing for real.
Yeah, and Notre Dame is truly a special place. I got the opportunity to hang out with you guys and then go to the football game with my dad. So I got to lead off with a thank you for the tickets. The seats were phenomenal for viewing, of course, Notre Dame victory.
Yeah, you're more than welcome. I'm glad you had the opportunity. It's great to see you and meet your dad. And obviously, I drink the juice daily, but I'm glad others could see what it's all about.
Yeah, and we were able to connect with the Soldiers Sidelines Conference in Nashville, Tennessee. So also thank you to Harrison Bernstein for that connection. And I mean, that's the world of lacrosse. Such a small world where 6 degrees, Kevin Bacon, everybody's separated. And your lacrosse journey, similar to mine, Division III athlete. So I have to highlight that because, I mean, I feel there's this stigma often when I bring up D3. I'm so proud of it. It was the right school, the right size, the right time for my playing career. You're one of the top coaches in the game. Your career started in a similar path. I got to highlight, shout out old Mary Washington. They're in Fredericksburg, Virginia.
Yeah, I'm D3 through and through, man, and I'm proud of it. It like you are, and we missed each other by a few years, but we definitely competed. Our schools, rivals in some ways, and I remember taking those trips up 95 to play Marymount. But I'm reminded. I think it's one of the reasons why I've kind of figured out this coaching path. Not necessarily me becoming a coach, but the work behind it, and not to take away from those that had higher playing careers at Division One universities at all. But I think the gratefulness and ability to continuously work to find your niche to get to where you want to get to. I think it was shaped as a Division III athlete. Truthfully, it's kind of you're not given as much of a path in terms of the time spent on and off the field as a Division III athlete. It's what you make of it. I think. Whereas a Division I athlete, we have those guys for 4 to 6 hours a day. Um, it just wasn't. It's not the same concentration. So, um, I think often back to it and the lessons I learned and the appreciation I have for not just my coaches but my teammates at Mary Wash.
Yeah. And it was also an opportunity to step into leadership for that first time, be that team captain. And often within the lower levels, you're given the responsibility, but not necessarily the tools. You got to discover those on your own. You got to figure out what works. You got great relationships with the guys. That's a good starting point. Then there's a difference between motivation and inspiration. pushing, and pulling. So what are some reminders and lessons that you hold on to from that time at Mary Wash?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, I think it happened way before Mary Washington. I've always kind of been an organizer, and a go-getter. I would organize, my friends, and not that organization is a form of leadership. In some ways, it is, but being able to divide kids up on a playground, or in a parking lot so we could play street hockey, and make sure you're not forgetting it's a game, but at the same time, the competitive nature and the juices. So I think that from a leadership standpoint, I understood that, being organized, being intentful, with messaging, certainly I was a junior captain at Mary Wash and a senior captain. So having to overcome, ages and knowing that I was hopefully doing and messaging what was in the best interest of our team, not necessarily the individuals, regardless of age. That those are some difficult conversations, and we had some off the field adversity that we faced, as well as on the field. So you know you've got to remove yourself, and that's not always easy. The peer pressure thing is a big deal. I think that's one of the lessons I continuously think about, as I've become a little bit more of a veteran in this coaching space. Um, I think that, and this might segue into another question, but peer led teams are the best teams. And I would, looking at our two championship years, we were extremely peer led. And if I think about my coaching, it was more about connectivity with our guys than anything else.
That is value. Yeah, I lean into that peer led as well, and also giving them the tools. As you mentioned, conflict is inevitable. It's going to happen in teams. One thing that I love to teach guys, captains, teams, whenever I teach conflict resolution is number one rule: this can be resolved. Are we going to break up over this? No, then okay, we established that. Now it's working together. We've created a possibility of reconnecting and coming together. So and but philosophy is a big thing, especially when you get the opportunity to create a defense and come together. I'm a defensive player myself, so I love just the schematic, the chip on your shoulder, the attitude that comes with it. Um, now take us back to early locker rooms, early phases of your coaching career when you were developing that personal philosophy you now have in place, established.
Yeah, first of all, I've been extremely lucky with those that I've worked for in this business. Some legends. I started my coaching career at Chaminade High School, which is where I went to, and I worked for, Coach Jack Moran, who just retired as the winningest all-time high school coach ever. 45 years at Chaminade, and an extremely impactful man in my life. So I had a chance to learn from him. Then I moved on to Tommy Gill at the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy, who is also a legend in our sport. And there is a few lessons I learned from him, more than anything else. I remember showing up on the field and I did not have a pencil. And I remember him pointing out to me, like, after, would you show up for class without a piece of paper and a pen? No, I would not. And he said, as a coach, you should be continuously taking notes. It's the only way you can remember certain impactful moments throughout a practice. That was a very important lesson, which I still to this day, I carry a pen everywhere now. There's things that pop into your mind. It's a split second. You want to write those down so you don't forget them. That was really important. And B, I learned a very important lesson. So he was a very intentful person. Emotional sparks were part of his lessons. He was a very hard coach. And he'll kill me for sharing this, but I'm going to share it anyways because it was really impactful. We're playing Stevens Institute Technology in I don't even know what conference we were, playoffs. And we were getting smoked. I think it was like 8-0 at halftime. And he turns to me and goes, just be ready for what's about to happen. And as we walk into the locker room, he says, watch this. He literally starts calling out these guys and like calling them out, which, not that I agreed with that part of it, because I was too young to know. And now that it's kind of shaped, that's not what you do. It's certainly not what I believe in doing. And one of our captains, who I won't mention, literally took the water jug and not threw it at him, but threw it at the wall where like Gatorade and water was like all over the place. The other assistant coach, who was like a veteran, older gentleman who I competed against and then worked with, was like, "We got to get out of this locker room. Like, this is about to be a riot. Like, I don't know what's going on here." And I'm like, "What? This is my first year as a college coach." I'm like, "What the?" You know. But the chaotic moment of it, and the real story and leadership here is he had a reason, and he executed upon the reason. It was to spark it, to use himself as the um, pariah, and to get the guys motivated and angry in some way, shape, or form. So that was the lesson. And as a leader, that is your job. If you can't find a spark across the field, then you've got to find a spark in your locker room. And again, I wouldn't have done it that way, but I did learn the lesson. So there's things throughout that I've taken from each of these guys. Intentfulness is something that Coach Corrigan talks about every day, and I apply it every stop along the way. I can give a lesson from each of these guys, and it forms your philosophy a little bit. What are things that I would do? What are things that I do? What are things that I believe in? Are there ways to go about those applications that are different than other leaders? Absolutely. And leadership is individualized, and I think that's important. You have to form um, your own procedural and philosophies. You can't just take somebody's and do what they do, because it's not it's just not natural. It's not authentic to yourself.
Timeout. Coach, have you ever felt like your athlete shut down, tune out, or just too cool for coaching? You want them to listen. You shake them. You know this attitude and approach that they're taking with their training or their practice in front of you is not going to lead to success on the field or off the field later in life, and you have to change it. Athletes today are operating on a different internal system, and we need to course correct on how our approach is going to land with them. And that's why I wrote the new course, Why They Won't Listen, Coaching Today's Athletes. If you want to learn more, head to listen.captainsandcoaches.com for this online course. If you want the first lesson free, see how I break down and combine whiteboard lecture and practical demos, movement-based lessons, so that you can bring them to your practice and your training environments. Again, head to listen.captainsandcoaches.com to learn more and get that free lesson. And now, back to the show. Ready, and break. It takes reps to realize that. What I see at the high school level in particular is when you give a kid responsibility for the first time, they just mirror how they were led, either in the household or, in my case, football practice. Come after you. That's how they were led on the football field. Almost have to teach them the opportunity to find their own style. Um, Within that is holding teammates accountable. A term I love to throw around, I stole this from a Navy SEAL, is mutual accountability. For the first time in high school guys' lives, their performance relies on somebody else. Somebody else's performance relies on them. It's called interdependence. How do you go about instilling the importance of accountability when the guys get to your level for the first time? Because maybe they were the top dog in high school, now they're part of a team.
Yeah, I think again, we talk about peer leadership, peer accountability. Those, peer led teams are the best. And I think that constant reminders to leadership on your team about how important it is to separate your personal and your lacrosse lives, or nothing that occurs on the field is personal. That is not the time to single out somebody for how they live their life, for lack of a better example. It's a time to coach them through, to hold them to the standards of the team that are going to you in a position to be successful as a team. And it's not all wins and losses, of course. Like, these are life lessons. And I think sometimes we as a society have the tendency to celebrate leadership through wins. But I think sometimes the adversity that happens in disappointing seasons, those leadership lessons that you learned are applied like 5 times over the next year. But I think the peer accountability thing, I tried to, as an assistant coach, pull aside our leadership at times and say, "Hey, great moment for you right now. Like, I'm feeling a void where this guy is not living up to our standard." Rather than me address this, this would be a great moment for you to address this in your way. So like I think that's my job. I used to do it at Navy. I do it here at Notre Dame. I try to, hey, there's a void here. I try to alleviate the pressure on the coaching staff, particularly Coach Corrigan. Um, those moments I know are coming. You could feel them. All of us can feel them. That's part of being a team. And if we can alleviate the pressure on him to make that point, then in the long run, we will be a better team for that. So, I find that responsibility. Maybe that's my pure accountability. And, what I bring to the table to our leaders, but I think they're young and again, it's tougher. So reminding them that it's okay. Okay. Like, what our standard is, it's okay to remind them. In order for us to be successful, you're going to have to, you know, say something to somebody and hold them to a higher standard.
And curious how you would approach aggressiveness versus assertiveness. A lot of guys, when they go up in level, they want to be aggressive. They want to send a message as they get there. And there's differentiating aggression, going after teammates, being assertive, where I'm pushing with that intent to make everybody across the board better. Is that ever a communication or observation that you've had with younger guys?
Yeah, I mean, it's knowing the individual, and sometimes as a adolescent or a young man, you don't. It's not wiping a slate, with the same brush. Everybody is different. Everybody receives messaging different, and as a leader, that's your job. You need to understand and observe. You need to understand how to communicate with the individual. So to your point, you know, pushing the aggressive path all the time becomes you know, just a yeah, yeah, yeah moment or a wah, wah, wah moment. You have to know the highs and lows. They also know who you are as an individual, as a leader. And if you're not being authentic to yourself, like I'm a highly energetic person. I'm very emotional as a coach. And I don't mean emotion in a screaming, it's not that, but I ride the emotion of the moment, highs and lows. And I'm constantly reminding myself, like, hey, I have to bring the energy. My body language is important, and the same thing is for these guys. Like, be authentic to yourself. We have a couple leaders who are tremendous players that are not yellers or screamers. It's not who they are, and if they become a yeller and screamer, then their message is lost. So they've got to be authentic to themselves and how they communicate and how they present things. And then you got to lead by example, of course. Like you got to be able to walk the walk, not just say talk to talk. And that is a fine line that I think a lot of guys kind of miss. Like, well, you didn't do it that way, so why do you expect me to do it that way? You know. So I don't know. Chris Wojcik talks about it. One of our assistant coaches here. You gotta be able to put your feet there first, and show them before you tell them.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. And in line with feet, I'm gonna use that one as well. In line with feet, it's be where you are, be where your feet are. A
Yep.
lot of guys with at the college age, they're thinking about the past too much. Could be the past play, could be the past practice, could be, as you mentioned, off-field issues that could potentially get in the way of team chemistry. They're too far forward. They're putting the cart before the horse, and especially in a established program. Maybe they think 1, 2, 3 national championships. Why show up for the first time as a freshman? This is going to be easy. We're going to go win a championship. So, how do you help them be present in the moment every single day, especially in fall? We don't have a game for a few months.
It's hard. It's hard for us. I mean, I thought our job got harder when we won the first national championship. The expectations change, and for a lot of those guys on our roster, all they knew was winning, and winning is not easy, and so I think one of the things we struggled with last year, truthfully, coming off the 24 championship where we only lost one game, like we had guys on our roster that don't know how to lose. They don't know what that means. They don't know what comes of it. And so you start to look around the locker room and you're like, the sky is falling when it's not, because the lessons you're learning in those losses are more important than the lessons you would learn in a win. Winning, the winning cures things. It's definitely a band-aid on a lot of your issues. And you know, I, I think we're one of the things that, this team in particular, from a leadership standpoint, is we're thankful for, the way we lost. Credit to Penn State last year. They overcame a tremendous deficit to put us, in a place that we didn't want to be in. But I say a determined team because of those lessons. And there's like little things that happen that have already happened that, you could tell there's a level of commitment and a standard that these guys are setting. Being on time, wearing the same clothes, that kind of that. These are like little things that in the grand scheme of a team will pay off hopefully tremendously when it's all said and done.
Yeah, I'd love to sit in that for a little bit. Learning how to lose. How was that environment in the locker room after a tough loss? Was that leadership present? Were they able to redirect, reframe, get guys back on track? Did coaches need to step in and remind them, "Hey, this is actually a healthy thing for us, and a chance for us to
Yeah,
improve."
yeah, yes, I think there was a tremendous void that was created from the losses, and there was also a tremendous void that our guys stepped into to remind those that, hey, like everything is still in front of us, and this is something, coach kept reminding them, like things are in front of us, but like the windows are the window of opportunity is starting to close a little bit. So the urgency is got to be there as well. And at first, I think some of our younger guys struggled with understanding the urgency, the intentfulness, paying attention to the details. But the older guys were like, "Hey, like hey, we're there, but like we can't continue to make these mistakes. The devil is in the detail, and the details are what have separated us in the previous couple of years." So, um, I think that right after we lost, I mean, I remember a couple of our underclassmen being like, "That will not happen again." And it started from, when the clock hit zero until we got in there. Like as soon as that happened, these guys were focused on the next year, and you offer a shoulder for the graduating guys, but they're determined to put this thing back on the right path.
Yeah, seeing those I've been many locker rooms where you see a senior end of season, and I love to give them gratitude and grace, and thank them, show them this passion and emotion that's there. I mean, as soon as that last game hits for a junior, for the senior, the junior's clock starts ticking. They can count how many games they got left. It's yeah, it's important to call out that energy, that emotion, aim to bottle it up, take it into your your summer training. Hopefully,
Yeah, and like from from a coaching standpoint, I mean, you're constantly internalizing every moment from those losses and those seasons. I haven't stopped. There's a lot of things that I would redo. I don't think I did a very good job at upholding on a consistent basis the standard that I expect our defense to perform at, or our face-off guy. Those are things that I will be better at. I think that I solicit feedback from our players. I think it's an important piece of understanding what their needs are. Every team is different, and trying to apply those that I can control. One of our guys offered me, like, sometimes I have a tendency to cut somebody off, thinking I know how they're going to finish their points. Just listening, being a better listener, like that's something that I need to do better, and I apply that to my personal life. So
yeah, that feedback loop's incredibly important. So now, when did you start to notice that there was an example of you were cutting people off? Were you socially aware that this was occurring? You made that mistake before? Or was it a shock that this gentleman was able to stand up and say, "Coach, timeout. That was not the point."
yeah, I mean, God, it was like halfway through last year when that person who plays significant minutes for us told me that, and if he's feeling it, then others are talking about it. And I addressed it right away as a group. You know, you got to hold yourself to the same standard. You got to be willing to accept your own personal losses on in applications. And the other thing was like celebrating small victories in practice, whatever those were, and as a group, not just like with one group. So with like the scout team or the younger guys or whoever. And I continuously ask about both those points because I respect the person that told me, and I think it's important that others understand that, yeah, I'm not bulletproof, and I'm not perfect, and I know that I'm not afraid to be vulnerable. I think as I've gotten older, the machoism of coaching has subsided. I'm an emotional person. I know that I've embraced it. And my wife continuously reminds me like, hey, these guys want to know you as a person. You don't have to be this like stoic individual. That's not real. So I try to be as real as possible within the confines of my job.
Mhm. Now, how are you putting a feedback loop into place? 'Cause there's other things that you may not be aware of that are affecting a connection between you and an athlete. So how are you putting a feedback loop in place and open to receiving stuff as new kids come in with different tendencies, experiences may affect how they hear and listen?
Yeah, I mean, first off, I address it with the younger guys, the newer guys. I'm like, hey, this is what somebody has told me, and if you feel this, then first I'm trying to create. Hey, it's okay to tell me. Like it's important for me to understand where your guys are coming from or what your needs are. Again, every person and team is different. And B, if you catch me not doing that, I'm not applying what I'm being told. Therefore, what you're telling me is basically I'm telling you it's not important, which is not who I am. So, and I constantly ask them if I am applying their points.
And I think it's a good time to bring up one of my favorite terms from Harrison Bernstein's Soldiers of Sidelines, coaching scars. And many sides to this story where it could be where you came after somebody with the intensity and 10 cities, and they weren't expecting it. We left a coaching scar. Or from our playing career, knowing all the stuff we had going on in life, and then a coach said one thing one day, an offhanded comment, and then it left a scar on us.
Yeah,
What does the term coaching scars mean to you?
yeah. I thought about this for a while. 3.5 weeks is when you sent this to me, and I think it opened up a little bit of a wound for myself because I really started to think about all of the messaging throughout my career, and I got into coaching to make an impact on people's lives. And I struggle to think that I was a negative impact on, and I know I have been because of the coaching scars I've left, whether I was macho or I used a personal example when I was trying to, make a teaching point or whatever it was. So coaching scars is a positive term in being able to internalize, synopsize your, do a synopsis on yourself, and to improve. But it's extremely negative lesson to learn because you didn't put your best foot forward in terms of leaving a positive impact on somebody's lives. It doesn't mean you're perfect, but it definitely hurts. It has hurt. Like you know, I made some. I can think of vividly a couple of examples of leaving coaching scars where I'm sure these guys are still telling those stories, and they're like, "Can you believe that he did this to me?" Um, and that's not the impact. Like I don't think of some coaches probably because they left coaching scars in my mind. Like the guys I think about were positive influences in my life continuously, consistently in my life. Their coaching scars are not wounds; they're celebrations and love. So, but the ones that have left negative wounds are ones that I don't even mention some of my coaches because they just weren't positive influences in my life. That's a coaching scar,
Yeah.
and that one hurts. Like that hurt, man. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like I've thought about coaching scars. It's not something I know I do it. I don't want to do it. Yeah, I struggle to accept that I probably have done that, and I know I have. So I don't know if I have a like I don't have a feeling on it. I know I've done it, and it's a coaching scar to me. Is yeah, I've learned from them. I continuously think of them, but I haven't stopped thinking in 3.5 weeks and thinking back for 25 years. Like, oh my god, I know I did that.
Yeah, and then why I bring it up is to help coaches that do listen. Aim is to create some self-awareness and accountability and ownership. And a simple lesson I learned a long time ago is understanding the difference between intent and impact. You can go in with intent, "This is what I meant. This is what I wanted from that kid, that individual, that team. Here was the true impact of my words and my actions." If we're able to understand the gap between intent and impact, then now we can redirect, reframe, similar to us losing the game. Okay, well, come back to, okay, what lost us the game? What lost us that connection? We're taking that same approach as we would sport connection, then okay, well, yes, those scars can turn into stories of triumph, some adventure, right? Where I got some scar, scrape, or knock in the back of the head when I was a kid. Now I have the same scar from a coach that's not an internal conflict or a wound on my character, me that has a negative sense against authority. That's what it's all about. It may not be a target against you 'cause you said something. Now it becomes a target against authority. The world's against me. My professor hates me. Coach hates me. Is probably what I hear often, right? So having high expectations with high support, David Yeager says, right? That puts us in a position where we don't feel bad about having intensity with kids. We're not leaving coaching scars. Our intent, our support was there. Now we saw the impact and reflect on
Yeah, I yes, like I internalize everything. Like I look back to the 2.5 hours I spent with our guys every day, and if I didn't do a good job at explaining the why I said certain things or why I pointed out certain things as a group or an individual, then I circle back with the individual and the group to make sure they understood where I was coming from. And if they understand that, then A, I can cure any scar that I had possibly caused, and it builds trust. Like, hey, guys, just so you know, this is the why. This is why I said X, Y, or Z. Good or bad, it doesn't matter. If even if it's a good message, the delivery is could be bad. So I make sure, as I've gotten older, like there's got to be a why for everything you do, and they have to understand it. This is an extremely inquisitive group. They're very smart. Information is at their fingertips. So like, I need to provide I need to find a reason, and that's okay. And in the past, like when I was younger, I'd be like, dude, why are you questioning me? What the, like, what are you talking about here? I don't need to be questioned for there doesn't need to be a why. Just do what I tell you. But that's not how this generation thinks, and it's important that they understand the why. That's okay.
Now, how do you, when stepping into recruiting a little bit, well, how do you introduce to recruits, "Hey, this is why we're doing things." What's your extent of, "Hey, this is our philosophy, this is our style of play." What is your preemptive why to help attract them? This is a team that I want to be a part of.
Yeah, our so again, we are extremely organized and intentful in everything we do. Every year and every cycle is different for us. And we debrief after every recruit, good or bad. As a staff, we do a lot of due diligence leading into it, so that when it comes down to the messaging is the same, and there's a reason. So to your point, when we build a recruiting list or a class, there's intent behind it. There's a reason. These guys fit, each of the puzzle pieces fall, and we tell them what the puzzle is for them and how we envision their role in the class and on the team and in the future. And I think that self selection is a big deal. It's something that as I've gotten a little bit more experience in this game and at this level, it's a lot of kids self select. They self select themselves into certain places, and that's a good thing because you're explaining and you're giving them all the information for them to make the decision that's best for them. And self selection for us is a big deal. We want the guys that want to be here, not that a shiny penny was flashed or a scholarship was offered. We want the guys that understand their why. Um, so it there's a single voice. We don't convolute messages. We streamline things so that these kids aren't hearing the same thing 5 different ways. I appreciate that. It's been extremely successful for us. It's a little bit of our secret sauce. I think at times when 2 or 3 people say the same thing, the messaging gets a little bit um, turned upside down, and then that creates doubt or confusion. So I think that's an important piece. Like one voice, one 2 ears, 2 eyes, like that. That's a big piece. And Coach Corrigan's like a big believer in that. Hey, the messaging, got to make sure the messages are the same. This is with our team as well. So like you say this in front of the whole team, or you do that, or I'll do this. So it's not like coach said this, so I'll back it up. So this or that. Like we don't need that.
I mean, you've been in the game a long time. Recruiting has evolved. I'll say that. Well, I mean, especially down here in Texas, when I was in high school, we had T99, which was just 100 kids. And that was it. You got to make the list, then you'll go play college ball. T99 is still around, and there's about 99 other state just
Yeah.
events down here. So, how has that evolved over the last 20 years? And what mindset and approaches have you taken as a director of recruiting for Notre Dame to evolve alongside it and not fall behind?
You can't get overwhelmed or lost in the minutia of the quantity. You still have to fish for the quality, and that means saying no to certain events or certain kids or certain coaches. We spend a great length of time um, doing our due diligence, which again for the fit, finding the right kid for us. So we do recruit nationally. That will never change, but we're a little bit more intentful with the who, what, why, and where, and being smart in utilization of your time. So, like using T99, now Texas has got a couple other events as well. So, identifying which of those events are realistic for Notre Dame players or Duke or whoever, Navy, if I was at Navy, you know, we do a little bit of analytics in terms of post event synopsis and where kids end up so that we understand what that event is drawing, if that makes sense. And yes, it does change year to year, but there's typically a pattern with events and how certain classes end up and where they end up, I guess.
Now, what guidance would you directly give to middle school if they're just starting to fall in love with the sport and college lacrosse becomes a possibility? What guidance would you give them to play this game appropriately and protect them from people that are after a little money?
Yeah, this is going to hurt some of your listeners, but like oversaturation of an individual. In other words, you don't need to do a million events. You don't need to play in a million games. I think there is and this is not just a lacrosse thing. This is like an every sport problem. It is a business, and there's a fear of missing out from a parental standpoint. We have it as well as parents, but it's okay to say no. We're not going to go to this event, or you've already performed in front of X, Y, and Z coaches. You don't need to go to another one. What we see is, a little bit of tiredness and towards the end of like the recruiting cycle because kids are just tired. They're not kids anymore. They don't have jobs. They don't get a chance to hang out with their friends and socialize, which is an important piece of their development as young men. Um, and the experiences that they're losing because they're spending it in a hotel after 4 games on a field at 95 degrees. Like you want to have an sense of adventure, and the only way to do that is to create it, and most times it's off the field, somewhere else with like your buddies. So that's how I think of it. I tell parents all the time, like, you don't need to do a gazillion events. You need to identify your talent level. um, you need to identify what you're looking for in a college, and then you need to figure out what events are the best ones to get you towards those goals. You don't need to just like throw a dart. or like hope that 100 schools call you on whenever, September 1st. Hope is not a strategy. So having a little bit of an understanding of what your needs are as an individual and as a family, financially and otherwise, and geographically for that matter, that's a great thing to have. The more information you have, the better you'll be when it comes time to make decisions.
What's your guidance for academics? You said pick the right school, pick the right college for you. Notre Dame's high up there academic. A lot of the major D1 and D3 very high academic schools. What's some guidance there for encouraging them to stick with school? School matters, not just sport
Yeah, whether it's network, whatever it is, you need to understand in high school those decisions you're making are important ones. Like your rigor is very important. Your understanding of the material as well, but taking basket weaving because it's fulfilling whatever credit in your thing is not a realistic approach towards your college career. We look at a lot of transcripts, and the only subjects that matter are your core classes. And so I think if I'm going to leave a message with parents and student athletes is understand what a core class is and understand the importance of those. Gym is not a core class. It is only a fluffer. Being absent multiple times is an identifier for those that are possibly finding ways to avoid adversity and or other things. That is also looked at. So like I would look at and understand what a core class is and understand what absences really do mean in the long run, not just in class, but if we're selecting somebody and they have 25 absences, most likely that pattern continues when they get to college.
here. Yeah, but then they have more freedom to make decisions.
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
never even thought of that. You're looking at absence. Wow, that's cool. Yeah, in core classes that approach that's wonderful. So I'd love to find out how you approach and give guidance. What's the conversation like for talent level? This is this is a realistic thing. Again, there are a lot of people out there selling one thing that is not matched to the talent so they can cash a check. What's your conversation to tell a kid, "Hey, this is where you're at," and speak honestly with them, give them proper direction?
I mean, I spend more time. We spend more time saying no to kids than saying yes. We're looking at a class of 8 to 10 individuals yearly. I mean, we're seeing thousands of players in the course of a year. The realities are not in the favor of, and the percentages are not in the favor of the individual, and that's a realistic, that's a reality. And I think that in this day and age with um, the third party advisors, for lack of a better word, and their selling points are not accurate most times. And if I am leaving a message with somebody, it's, hey, understand your level. If I'm giving you real feedback, then apply it. That's not to hurt you as an individual, but it's to put you on a path for success. Again, you and I are both Division 3 guys. At some point in time, we had an understanding that that was the best level for us and the best place for us, and that's okay. Like totally okay. I loved my experience just as you did. I love my friends from there and everything about it. So I'm very thankful of the path that I chose. And I was at times thinking I could play at a different level. And, I was able to play for 4 years. That was an important piece for me. I didn't want to sit on the bench. So you got to find out what's important to you. It's not easy to be an alpha male and then ride a bench for 4 years. Some people are okay with that. It's not something I wanted to do as a competitor.
Yeah, I have that similar conversation often. Aim to reframe it instead of D1, let's focus on college lacrosse and help them understand that there are great universities out there and then aim to bring the conversation to what do you want to study? What do you want to do? Then we can help find a good school based off of feel your next step in life is.
Yeah, I
And
love that.
lacrosse can get you into that school and hopefully get some money. So I want to go back to playing, and this is a conversation we had at the Soldiers Sidelines dinner, and oftentimes you're in a win now situation where you have freshmen, you got transfers in there that you know are the future of the program. How are you balancing playing and getting these guys valuable minutes that's gonna carry over maybe later in the season, later in their career when you need it?
Yeah, I remember that conversation, and I do think experience is important. You can't substitute it, to be honest with you. So finding ways to get an individual into a game at pivotal moments, that pays off. It might not be the immediate payoff, and I think us as coaches have to understand that. They're good enough to be on the field, but maybe not in a consistent time frame. So plugging somebody in, I think I used the reference of like one of our starting defensemen as a freshman. He was our third long stick midi. He played in national championship games and NCAA tournament games and ACC tournament games. Like, he got valuable experience. He played just enough for him to feel what it's like to be in those moments. To not, I don't want to say, we protected him from himself, um, and to teach him the valuable lessons that otherwise he wouldn't be able to achieve on the sideline. And I don't mean that in a negative light, but there's one thing to watch it, there's another thing to feel it. And being on the field in those moments, that's feeling it. So finding ways as coaches, like, to be creative, not be set in your ways and the personnel. You know, e- Evaluating your roster on a consistent basis is an important piece of being a tremendous leader, whether that's your staff or your coaching, your players, your support staff, whoever. You got to evaluate. We talk about feedback. Like, feedback's important. Experience is an important piece of that feedback. Letting somebody fail, the only way to do that is most likely in a competitive situation.
Of that feel the moment, and then that approach of giving a guy the 3rd, 4th LSM run, so he's on the field, he feels the moment, and it's not necessarily costing us. My core group is able to overcome any mistake that they may make, and they got plenty of time before their next run that I can coach them up on the sideline, prepare for that, and closing that feedback loop. What would you recommend for that approach to offense? My brain just doesn't work offense, so how would you take that to, I mean, it's such a flow, chemistry is such a big deal. How do you work in those young men for getting that moment?
We look at like extra man opportunities, crease opportunity, or maybe it's an attackman that you run out of the box at the midfield on a third midfield run. If you're able to do that from a depth standpoint, finding guys like we have an starting attackman this year who was a freshman last year. We ran him out of the box, um, and he had 2 big goals against Penn State in an NCAA tournament game. Like, hopefully that pays dividends this year. He certainly comes back with confidence and understanding. So, trying to sneak them into roles that, A, you take advantage of their strength, and B, minimize their weaknesses, but it might be outside their comfort level. And, I think, any athlete's going to want to be on the field. So if they understand the reasoning, hey man, we need to get you valuable experience. This is a way to do it. We can take advantage of that. They're going to go out and want to do it. So, I think those are moments and opportunities. Maybe it's an athlete that you put on a wing, at the face off. Let's just get you out there. You'll come right off, no big deal. But you get us a big round ball, you get some playing time, you get to feel it.
Timeout. Text here at Train Heroic headquarters, meeting with the team to talk about the coaching experience that I'm able to provide for my athletes. So if you're a coach and want to put your program out there on an app that athletes actually enjoy using, Train Heroics for you. I've been using it since 2014, delivering literally over tens of thousands of workouts to athletes, and the Train Heroic allows me to provide the unique coaching experience that I want to. Uploading video, providing coaching feedback, directions, and building a community. That's why I love Train Heroic. And if you want to take your athletes where they can't take themselves, that they want to go, head to trainheroic.com/captains and check out how you can deliver programming to them. And now back to the show. Ready, and rip. What's the expectation of film for you guys? When we were playing, it was just, hey, we're going to huddle up in one room. We're going to talk some trash, kind of eat it from coach. But now with tech, I can watch it anywhere, anytime.
Yeah, I mean, I watch every practice. Our guys watch it on their own. Individually, we clip them. Not just from a coach to player, but player to coach. player to player. I think that technology is not a foreign word to them. They're used to it. They're proficient in it. They enjoy it. So like they're chopping things up themselves. You know, Again, you talk about coaching points, understanding and reading the room. You're not going to be able to have somebody sit in a room for 35 minutes. It's just not realistic. So, we're going to make 2 to 3 points on this particular action or whatever it is. And then we'll move on to the next thing. And hopefully, I don't know if you're familiar with the term chunking, but like people learn in threes. So, that approach is something that we try to apply here. Like we try to chunk it like boom, this level, and the third level of chunking. So that's how we apply it. 2 to 3, no more, and then we move on.
Nice. And then when did you start to evolve that approach from the
Yeah, yeah.
previous old school?
Oh man. Probably in the last 5 to 6 years, truthfully. Like now I sit in a room like, I'm not afraid to be like, coach, I walk out like that was way too long, and he's consistently reminding us and constantly reminding us like no more than 5 minutes, like no more than 5 minutes of film, and that's a great reminder. Also, something we've started to do is to turn the tides a little bit and have the guys like bring clips to us that they want us to watch, so that again we talk about intent. We're understanding what the players are seeing and feeling, as opposed to us telling them what they should be seeing and feeling. And that's sometimes lost. Like you got to separate your ego and your experience a little bit, because you're trusting that they're going to approach and bring something that is constantly an issue.
Yeah. That's in line with the self-determination theory. That's autonomy. You're giving them power. Hey, show me what you're proud of. That also is feedback for me as a coach to be like, okay, when you have the ball or you make an assist, or you make a cut, or you make a play off ball, that's what makes you proud. I can continue to fill that cup for you. And
Yeah, I think Taxi just hit on like something that us as coaches, leaders, we have a tendency not to celebrate moments, and I think film isn't a great opportunity to celebrate things that are going right. We as coaches have a tendency to always focus on the negative, because those things are repetitive, but so are successful things. Like they're repetitive. So there's a fine line and it's a tough dance, and but you got to find ways to celebrate. Like, great job. Like, boom, this happens 2 or 3 times. We know what we're doing. So, like, making sure they know that. I see that you guys know. You're performing everything we've asked you to do on a consistent basis. Celebrate that. Remind them. Show them the good things. Like, we could score a gazillion goals. Let's see them. We can stop a million shots. Let's see them. Let's not just focus on the negative.
yeah, and why that's important is you got 50 plus guys on your roster. Yes, that one person did their job. Cool. Not
Right.
acknowledging it, we're not making that lesson and reinforcing the lesson for the rest of the guys were not on the field at that moment. So it reinforces and teaches the lesson to the guys that weren't living it in that moment. And this is this is a lot of what I'm exploring right now. I mentioned self-determination theory. Those are basic athlete needs. If these needs are not met, that's when we lose a kid. That's when we lose a locker room. I mentioned autonomy, also competence, relatedness. So showing them how much their skills have improved, that's competence. Relatedness, saying how their hard work is valuing the team, or a lot of the team connectedness drills and opportunities you guys are doing. That's why I love the weight room. All of these are accomplished in there. And competence, my weights, my strength's going up. Relatedness, can't help. I got to spot my guys getting rowdy, observe you guys lift. That's fun. Connectedness, then autonomy. Great coaches, they say, okay, you need a skill work right here. What drill do you want to do? Then they
Yep.
get to pick the drill. It still accomplishes our practice plan. That's a win-win. So little things like that, meeting the needs versus always do it my way or else, then get mad at them for not complying.
Yeah, I mean that you've heard like Saban, Belichick, all these guys. It's not what I know; it's what they know. It's not what I can do; it's what they can do. So that's your point. Like you got to be able to evolve, and you got to allow them to perform at the levels that they're they're able to.
Winding down, what do we got to look forward to this season? If there's any individual players, numbers to look out for, what are you most excited about? Is there a team on the schedule that we can look forward to? Hey, that's a big matchup. What's on deck?
I mean, every game's a big one. Like I'm a big believer in retribution. So I'm excited about some of these teams that we've lost to. I'm excited about all our teams. I'm most excited about our youth. We have a new era of Notre Dame lacrosse here without a Kavanaugh and some of these other special players that we've grown accustomed to over the last 4 to 5 years. And so I'm excited about seeing some of the newer faces that the public might not be aware of, but are ready to make their impact in our game. And I'm very hopeful. I really am. I'm excited. I know we have a long way to go, but this group is ready and hungry.
Great. Cool. Yeah. Watch that fall scrimmage. I mean, intensity was there, and it's cool to see some pros come back and just show them even more intensity, more intent, more urgency.
Yeah.
All right. Last question, and I'm curious, how are captains selected for Notre Dame lacrosse?
Yeah, captains are selected by their peers. Coach asks each of the players to give, I think it's 1 to 4 nominations and up to 4 nominations, and then to provide a reason behind it, with points. And we as a staff will go through those. But it is selected by the team, and then ultimately, the amount of captains. If there's 3, 5, 6 guys that have gotten multiple votes, then he'll make the final determination as to the how many. So it's all pure. I think that's important. Hopefully those are individuals that are able to relay the messaging both ways and to implement the beliefs and philosophies of the staff. Um, and to your question earlier, not afraid to hold their peers accountable. And I think that the gentlemen of the players that we have that are selected will do that. I think they have a tremendous amount of pride, and they understand the standard is never flatlined. It only rises. So um, I think standardization is like sometimes looked at as this is our standard, but the standard changes like every day. It's like culture, living, breathing. The best are those that don't have a standard. Their standard keeps moving, and it's impossible to catch. So
Love it. Is there a proper time of year you select them?
I think it changes team to team. To be honest with you, we utilize and we did it differently in Navy and some of the other places. Every school is different. Every head coach has a different philosophy, but we use the we change it. We have done it later and sometimes earlier in the fall. We hit it like I think 2 weeks ago because we felt there was a leadership void. It was time. In years past, we've had tremendous leaders where like we waited till I think it was like December right before they went home for winter break, to name captains. So I think it's team to team, year to year. You can't have a standard. I don't think you can have a standardized scheduling for that. At least not in my belief. Like you got to feel what are the needs and of the culture and the team, and that changes.
I guess last question. Uh, just interviewed Landau, and he shared Marcus Freeman's gold standard for his team, and I absolutely love this. The big 3 points for the gold standard: challenge everything, unit strength, and competitive spirit. Is there any philosophy, team-wide philosophy that Notre Dame lacrosse leans
Yeah, Coach Corrigan's is culture, community, and character, and it's something we talk about. We see it every day. Talk about intent. Everything is laid out for them. They understand. They're constantly reminded of, and there's examples pointed out. We're extremely involved in our community, giving back, gratefulness. We talk about that. We share like what we're grateful for. He picks 2 or 3 guys, different guys every day after practice, and sometimes before. The character doing the right thing all the time. How it's important putting program first over the individual, and then the culture. again, culture is living and breathing. Everything you do directly affects and relates to your culture. So don't forget that.
Great way to end it. Coach, thank you very much for everything. The gratitude that I have for what you're doing up there, man. It's seeing behind the scenes. It's great, man. A fan for life, man. So thank you, and I look forward to following along this season. People want to follow along. What's the best way that they can follow you through coaching or the team?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on X, I'm on Instagram, that's about it, social media wise. And then I think if you want to, tune in to see the Irish turn into either ESPNU or ESPN Plus, we're on every game, and we love growing, growing the green for whatever. But I appreciate you, man. You're what you're doing is an important piece of it. Relatability. Sometimes as coaches, we don't get that opportunity to be relatable. We're just um, a person on TV, sometimes in our weakest moments. So thank you for the opportunity. And again, thanks for what you're doing.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Captains and Coaches Podcast. If you like what you heard here today, be sure to like, subscribe, rate, and review the show on whatever platform you're on, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, anything. And head to captainsandcoaches.com to sign up for our newsletter for weekly coaching tools, tips, and everything in between, and highlights from the show. That's why I love connecting with coaches. I am biased towards lacrosse because I was a lacrosse athlete, but we're exploring all forms of sports: volleyball, swimming, football, and more lacrosse, of course. So continue to follow along with the podcast. Enjoy the insights from the world's greatest coaches that we hand off to you. If you want to continue to raise your game, sign up for my new course that I just launched, listen.captainsandcoaches.com, for tools on how to connect with your athletes and help raise their game. With that, we'll see you next time. Thank you for tuning in, and see you.